Hello, everyone. This is Staci. Welcome to The Landing.
Welcome to The Landing. As you know, the heart of The Landing has always been about connection, connecting people to our history, our community, and each other. For a long time, I believed my role was to be the person who held the microphone and asked the questions. But I've learned through every conversation that stories are not just something we collect from others. They're something we all carry. Many of you have asked me, when are you going to do a solo episode? And I've always laughed because I think I have an excuse for everything. I'm much more comfortable asking someone else about their life than talking about my own. But after all the conversations I've had, all the stories I've been honored to hear, I started thinking maybe it was time to share a little of mine. So today, I'm sharing a few of the stories I carry with me. Well, everyone, it's me today. I welcome you all, and I hope that you find something of interest in what I am about to share with you. I have been thinking a whole lot lately about my story and how my story has connected in some way, sometimes smaller than others, with every single person that I have sat down with and had a conversation. Our roots, our ties, our love of Down East makes us connected in ways that is hard to explain. And so, giving that thought and trying to give words to that, I have decided that today is the time that I am going to share just a little bit about me. I have been told no by so many friends, family members, strangers when I ask them to talk to me on the podcast. The number one excuse why they say no is this. People think their lives, their stories are boring. They are not interesting enough. People don't want to hear this mess, I've been told. But what I have found is that everybody has a story. And as Karen has told me and many others over and over again, if we don't stop and tell our own stories, someone else will do it for us and it will not be correct. So today I'm just going to take a few minutes and share some stories that are special to me. And this might surprise you, especially if you know me. I don't have notes in front of me. So I am, in essence, I'm putting myself in the same situation that I do my guests, because we do it on the fly and I expect them to just be comfortable and to chat. And so I'm going to see what that feels like firsthand. So today I just want to sit down and share a few thoughts, and I hope that you're able to follow me on this little journey down memory lane. First of all, I want to, of course, start with my childhood. I think of my childhood and I smile and tear up, as you might hear already. I tear up and smile because that was my sanctuary, my happy place. I don't ever remember a time that I felt neglected or I felt out of place, like I didn't belong. My parents, in my opinion, were perfect. They were amazing parents. I'm not saying they're perfect people. I'm saying they're perfect parents to me. I was the third daughter to Lana and Wayne Davis. My mother was Lana Hancock, and she was the daughter of Linwood and Louise Hancock. And that in itself says a mouthful. She comes from strong stock. She comes from strong faith in our Heavenly Father. She comes with a testimony that rooted and grounded our home. There was never a Sunday that I didn't know what was going to be going on that Sunday morning. For most Saturday evenings, we had laid out our clothes. Mom had ironed our dresses. We had even laid out our socks and shoes. Mom had had prepped for what we were going to have for lunch the next day. Everything was ready. So when I woke up Sunday morning, we got ready and we went to church. We sat in church and listened to our friends and our family speak of their own testimonies and to plant the seed of faith in my little heart. Primary, Young Women's, Relief Society are all very big parts of me, and all of that started on Harker's Island. My father, he is Henry Wayne Davis, and he is the son of Henry and Mary Frances Davis. He comes from strength and hard work and resilience. To hear my dad talk, you know that he has worked since he could walk. He oftentimes says he was raised in a fish house because when he was tiny, granddaddy built the fish house. That was just, I guess in our terms, would be like a block away from his own front door. And when he could walk and get there, he was there. And even times when he shouldn't be there, he was there. Like he was a toddler, and he tells stories of granddaddy taking care of him, babysitting him, if you will, because grandmama worked as well. So they both put in the hours and time and set that example. And my dad has worked every single day from since then, mostly from wanting to, and of course along the way, necessity. So they were my examples. My mom and dad were examples of God-fearing, faithful, strong, loving, hardworking people who helped anyone that needed it. So many times, Mom would take food or take clothing, or I would hear conversations about, okay, what are we going to do to help them? Dad would give away seafood. He would get called in the middle of the night because he worked with the electric motor company, and never, ever, ever did I hear a harsh word come from them between each other. They never argued, and that is hard to believe, I know, but never a cross word. Now, am I sure that there were times that they did not see eye to eye? Absolutely. But did I, as their daughter, or my sisters, Dwayne and Tanya, did we ever witness that? Absolutely not. We were expected to mind them, to respect others. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Please, thank you. We were expected to do what was right, and to be good, and to follow the rules, and to do well in school, and to just give everything we had, all we had, or not do it at all, because what's the point, right? So what a blessing to be able to say that I come from parents like that. And I have two wonderful sisters, Dwayne and Tanya, who were older and who also set many examples of how I should act as a young girl growing up in the 80s. I remember sharing a bedroom with my sister Tanya because the home that my father built for us that we moved into when I was a baby, I had 3 bedrooms. Well, Mom and Dad had one, Dwayna had one, and Tanya and I shared one. And oh, how I treasure those years with Tanya. There will be many nights that we would lay in bed and scratch each other's backs. And she would scratch mine first, and I would then scratch hers. But to be completely honest, many times, too many, she would scratch mine first, and I would pretend to fall asleep. And then my sweet Tanya would just turn over and go to sleep without her back scratched. Why am I crying? But I have great memories of Dwayna. She was 6 years older, and oh, how I loved her style. To me, she had such pretty clothes and pretty jewelry and pretty hair. And so Tanya and I would sneak in her closet and we would borrow. I use that term loosely, borrow without asking. And she would always get so frustrated with us. But we did it because we wanted to be like her. All through school, I wanted to do the best. I was very much a teacher pleaser as well as far as wanting to do well. And I enjoyed doing well. I enjoyed learning, loved to read. My mom started working at Harkers Island Elementary when I started kindergarten. And so that was wonderful. So oftentimes we would walk to school together because where we lived, we could just cut through the yard of our neighbors and be right there to school. And so it was awesome to know that mine was right up the hall. And eventually, when I was in 3rd grade, I was able to, of course, share the classroom with my mom, for she was a teacher's assistant for Miss Ruth Vulture. When I think about Harkers Island Elementary, I am extremely grateful for the education that I got there. I often describe my kindergarten through 8th grade years as the closest that you could get to a private school experience, yet it was still a public school. My classes were small. There was a great student to teacher ratio. Through school, sometimes I would have combination classes. I think, for example, in 2nd grade, we had a 2nd, 3rd combination because the numbers were so low. I think we also had maybe a 6th and 7th or 7th and 8th grade combination along the way. I think of all the teachers and what wonderful folks they were. I was a cheerleader, which is what I wanted to do, but I also had to play basketball in middle school because we didn't have enough girls for a team. Now think about that. 5 players is what we need to make a team, and we didn't have enough to do that. Yes, you heard that right. So I would play basketball reluctantly with the girls, and then I would change and I would cheerlead for the boys basketball. But it was so much fun, and we laughed and laughed and laughed while we were doing that. In middle school also is when we started having a football team, and we would go to Smyrna for that because the Down East schools, so Harkers Island, Smyrna, and Atlantic Middle School, had one football team, and we also had one cheerleading squad. So up until 7th grade, middle school, until 6th or 7th grade, I only knew the people that were in my classes and lived on the island, and most of which we went to church together as well. So even teachers. So we saw the same people pretty much 6 days a week, which was pretty awesome most of the time. But when we started combining for Down East football and cheerleading, I was able to meet some other girls my age and boys my age. And so I met some of my best friends on that cheerleading squad from Smyrna and Atlantic. And that helped us transition very easily, I feel, into East Carteret because of that experience with the football, and also because of junior band, which we had practices before parades and for concerts with all of the Down East schools and also Beaufort. So we had some contact with all the other schools in some way. And so East Carteret wasn't a huge transition. Now it was much bigger than what we were used to, but I knew there were some familiar faces there. Going through high school was fun. I was a cheerleader ninth grade, was in band 9th and 10th grade, was a drum major, and played softball. Softball was my love. So I, again, continued to learn, continued to do as good as I could, as well as I could, study, read. And I did graduate top of the class, and I worked so hard to get there. And when I accomplished valedictorian, I remember like just being, for one moment, I made myself just pause and say, okay, we did it. Now what? And now what was college. And so what a different beast that was, right? But I do want to stop and go back a little bit to how my friends and I entertained ourselves. Even though Mom says that I exaggerate this, I really am not. And you can, or I would love to ask my friends, and my friends I'm going to throw out some names here: Marianne, Johanna, Michelle, Tracy, Jana, Janet, Ellen, April. I know I'm missing some that were integral in growing up. Tiffany was right up the road. Oh my goodness, so many. Tara. But we walked everywhere, was what I'm trying to say. Katrina was right across the road. We walked everywhere. So I would say bye to Mom. I would walk to, let's say, Johanna's house. And then we would call, see if Marianne was home. We'd leave Johanna's house, walk to Marianne's through all the back roads and go through yards. And then we'd a lot of times stay there, play, listen, because Miss Phyllis always had a lot of interesting things going on there, stories being told in the beauty parlor. We'd play, and then we'd end up at the sand hole and play hide and seek and ride the three-wheelers. If it was a different day, I might go east, stop to Janet Lynn's house, or and then we'd go to Ella Marie's house, or I would go to Tracy Dawn's house, and we'd go to Gina's house. I mean, there was just so many friends that were within walking distance, and we would just walk, and we would sing as we walked. We would walk in different step, try to keep step. We would just play and talk and stay outside. When I got in middle school, I remember the fun that we would have. I would go to Terry's house, and anytime we could in the summer, we would be out in the sun. And at Terry's, we would actually climb out of her bedroom window, which was upstairs, and we would lay out on top of her roof. We would have the music blaring, and we would be laying out on top of her roof with baby oil all over us. And Miss Teresa, of course, hollering, "Do you need anything?" and bringing us whatever we needed. I remember when I got a little older, when I was in high school, hanging around with Monica a lot, and Billy Lynn and Jody. Of course, Billy and Jody I hung around with all my life because they were my cousins as well as best friends. And we would ride down Front Street, and we would spend the night with each other and just hang around talking and doing our normal things. I remember Julie. Oh, sweet Julie. She loved to lay out in the sun. And so we would pack our things, and we would go to the bridge, put our lawn chairs at the edge of the water, fill ourselves up with baby oil, turn on the music, and lay there until the daylight would go away. Swim, lay out, eat, swim, lay out, eat. And it was so much fun. When I was 14, Mila opened the Seaside, and I begged Mom to let me work. I wanted to work. I wanted my own money. But I had to beg Mom because she had to sign for me to get a special worker's permit since I was only 14. And she did that, and I started working at the seaside. I was a waitress there, and boy, did we have fun. We had such a wonderful group there of young girls up front and also women in the back. And that was awesome. We did that. I did that all through school, and then eventually ended up working over on the store side as well when I got old enough, and did that through school. I waitressed in the island also at Calico Jack's with Miss Paulette. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful lady she was. She taught me so much about hard work and about just do it yourself. Just do it yourself. Don't depend on anybody. Do it yourself. And I have done some laughing at her and Junior in the kitchen. And then I continued working with her when she was running. I'm not sure if it was called, I don't think it was called Blackbeards then, but it's what is Blackbeards now. But I worked with her then even when I was out of college and was a teacher at East Carteret. Oh, such wonderful people. When I'm thinking about these people, I'm smiling as I'm talking. And I hope that some of this is resonating with you and you're recognizing some of these names. When I think of home, when I think of Harker's Island, I think of all the people and the places that made me who I am. I definitely think I have salt water running through my veins. And I don't say that lightly. I say that as an honor. When I lived on Harker's Island growing up, I took so much for granted. I took for granted being able to jump in a boat after it was dark and to run out to someone's setting for shrimp and running out there, getting a mess of shrimp, coming back home and cooking them. I took that for granted. Y'all, that's not normal. I took for granted even before that when I was a toddler going shrimping with my dad. He would take me shrimping with him. I was his mate and I would help him. And by help, I meant stay out of the way. He had a bunk in the cabin of the boat, and there I had my dolls and my toys that I would play with while they were doing the hard work on the back of the boat. And then once everything would come and we just started trawling, Dad would call me and I would go out there with him and we'd sit on the edge of the boat. So many times he would set me on top of the cabin. We'd look at the stars and we'd look at the moon and we'd look at the other boats. We talk on the CB. I had a handle. Daddy's was light pole and mine was boondocker. And we would sing. Oh my goodness, y'all have no idea the amount of silly songs I have in my brain that I then would pass down to my children and now grandchildren. I laugh because I think of all the silly words of songs that some daddy would sing correctly as far as how they were written, and many he would ad-lib and make up his own words too. But that was normal for me. And there was one night that there was a thunderstorm that was coming up and I was scared. I was scared to death, crying, begging Daddy, please take me home. So bless his heart. There was only one thing to do, and that was to take me home. So he pulled up everything and called Mom on the CB. And we had a CB there in the house, in the kitchen. And Mom answered and said that she would be waiting for me at the end of our land near the boat basin, or where the Sound and boat basin met. And so Daddy brought me in. And sure enough, I calmed down. I knew without a doubt that I was going to be okay from that point on. And sure enough, Mom was standing there. She collected me in her arms, took me home. And Dad went back out and finished his job. I think about it now that I have been a parent, that I am a parent, and I think about all the times that mom would get up with us and go to work and come back home and then go to work, doing different things. She had always, it seemed like something going on. It was either a calling at church or she would be doing something for someone part-time, but always something going on. Dad would come home from the REA, from the EMC, and he would get home about 4:30. Mom would have supper on the table at 4:30. Yes, she had been to work at school until 3 or 3:30. Come straight home, cook. Daddy would eat at 4:30 because he would then change his clothes and then go do whatever season it was. He would go crabbing. He would go shrimping. He would do whatever season it was. And then he would come home late that night, or that night at bedtime, or sometimes after. And I used to think, he's so lucky. Well, little did I know that that was a job. He was doing that to sustain his family. And how grateful I am for all the many hours that Mama and Daddy both have put in to sustain their family. How the lens of life changes the older you get, right? I know that Granny and Grandmama used to, talk about the wisdom of age. And of course, I didn't understand that because I didn't have that wisdom, because I didn't have those years of experience. But now that I am in my 50s, I am beginning to see that lens focus a little more to what matters, what really matters. And I understand phrases that I used to hear, like the wisdom that comes with age, or like how time flies, when you're older. Used to hear so many times, there's not enough hours in the day. Well, I understand that now. I get it. One other saying that I oftentimes think of anytime I wear black, if I wear a black dress or a black coat, black anything, Grandma Mary Frances one time said to me as she was helping me get some lint off of a black coat, she said, "Staci, black is only good for two things. It's good for attracting lint and attracting men, and you don't need neither one of them." And so I oftentimes giggle when I think of that and I see lint on my black clothing. Pa, he used to say some funny things too. And one thing that I say sometimes, because I am a teacher, I've been teaching, this will be my 29th year in the classroom, because I did take 3 years off to stay home with my two children, Davis and Darcy. And but anyway, Pa would say sometimes about someone who wasn't quite making sense or not making good decisions. And he'd say, "Yeah, he's offshore and he ain't tied to no buoy either." And there's so many times that saying has been perfect way to describe the situation. Oh my goodness. But I have been blessed. I've been blessed with a youth that in childhood that I smile and cry when I think of, all from happiness. I have been blessed with an adult life that has been filled with love and support from my husband, Daryl, who you met in last week's episode, who also gave me the courage to do this episode, by the way. And so you know a little bit about our story. And I have now 2 beautiful children of my own and 1 precious granddaughter. So my life is full. It's not always been easy, because life isn't. And we learn and are refined through those hardships. And I keep reminding myself of that I am grateful and I am blessed to call Harker's Island home. I thank you for listening to my ramblings, and I hope that it's made sense and hasn't lulled you to sleep. Who knows? Maybe sometime in the not so near future, I will try this again and answer some more questions that I have been asked. But this time I decided to tell my story of my roots. And because I have been asked that so many times of why did you share with us where you come from? And I hope that I have done it justice. So until next time, next week is our 100th episode, and we have something very special planned for you, so I hope you join us. But until then, I will wish for you much happiness and much joy and challenge you to think about your story and recognize its importance. And I hope that you reach out to me with a desire to share it.
Thank you again for joining us to The Landing. This podcast is brought to you by the Core Sound Waterfowl Museum and Heritage Center. Tune in next week as we continue learning, sharing, and remembering together. If you'd like to hear more, check out our previous episodes where you get your podcasts. If you or someone you know is interested in being on The Landing, please reach out through the link in the description. Until then, stay safe and be kind.